Hello there, Dr. Colleen and Dr. Mark here from Lifetime Wellness with our Wednesday night live at 7:05-ish.
Hello, hello.
Changing it. Welcome back. First of all, if you are watching this on YouTube, because we've been putting all these live videos over on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/lifetimewellness. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you click subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates, and also hit the little bell so you get a notification when we do post something new. And if you're watching this here, whether it's live or not, we do have a question for you here on Facebook. We do have a question for you, a little question of the day, which leads into what we're going to be talking about tonight. And that is, have you tried any type of fasting, whether that's intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, extended fasting, block fasting, any type of fasting at all? Yes or no? In the comments, just type yes or no. And then if you have tried some types of fasting and if you feel like sharing, definitely add that. Add what type of fasting you've tried. And then, as always, if you know someone that this type of information might help, someone else who's interested in this topic, as always, just please share. Share away. That's why we're doing this, so we can help as many people as possible. So, I gave it away, what we're talking about tonight. If you watched last week's video, we were saying that right up until the last minute, we were trying to decide which topic we were going to discuss. We didn't discuss this one, but this was the runner-up. We are asked questions about all types of fasting on a daily basis. It certainly has become a health trend, which is very interesting because it's really nothing new. Fasting has variations of fasting have been around since the beginning of recorded human history.
Biblical.
Yeah, some of it's religious, some of it's health reasons, seasonal. There's all different reasons to fast. We've incorporated fasting, different variations of fasting in our more comprehensive metabolic recovery protocols for several years now, because there are so many benefits. So first things first, we just want to make sure
some
that
cultures didn't have a choice. They were just, you had to fast because there was no food available for a while.
some cultures are just some locations,
Geographic
hunter-gatherers,
areas,
that type of thing. So we're hardwired for it. So that's the first thing, is it's nothing to be afraid of. There's a lot of naysayers out there who freak out at the thought of, oh my gosh, you're not going to eat for 12 hours. You could pass away from that.
It's funny how you don't die
overnight
because you're fasting when you sleep. So really everybody should have answered yes, that you've done some fasting because you fast every night.
That was a trick question.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is this is as old as recorded human history. It's nothing to be afraid of. Let's figure out a way to embrace it because of the benefits that it offers. So do you want to dive into just that first?
Yeah, I think, and we're going to talk more so about longer fasting periods, because a lot of people now practice intermittent fasting, and she's going to explain a little bit about that. But really, the benefits kick in with longer time frames of fasting.
There's benefits to almost all types of fasting, but we're going to talk about two major types.
That's a great
tonight.
starting point. But yeah, so we'll get into the benefits.
Yeah.
I think I just want to say overall, kind of an umbrella statement is, and we tell this to our patients, is that fasting, in our opinion, is the single most powerful health intervention we have as humans, and it's free.
Yep. You don't need a doctor for this. You don't need a prescription for this. You can do it all on your own.
Might need a little coaching, strategy. And
we're talking about that tonight too,
yeah.
that when you might need a little bit of advice and some strategizing. But some of the main benefits of longer duration fasts, and we don't like attaching exact numbers to a lot of these things, because one thing you'll hear me say over and over again when I talk about fasting is it's so individual. So what's a longer fast? For some people, it's not eating until 10 o'clock in the morning. That's their idea of a longer fast. For others, it could be several days, several weeks, and longer, which I know kind of blows people's minds when they're new to this. When we're talking about longer fasts, generally we're going to talk around a 5-day fast. It's not that some of these benefits won't be achieved earlier. They'll definitely be achieved on longer fasts, but on average, around 4 or 5 days, you start to really kick in with some of these benefits. Do you want me to say them and you can kind of explain them quickly, or no?
Sure. Yeah, or I would just,
We'll
let's
just
walk
talk
through
over
the
each
steps. Yeah.
We're talking
Mention-
benefits first.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
So the main benefits of a longer fast, the first one is autophagy, which is really an intelligent by design process our body goes through to clean house, to really clean up old debris, decaying debris, old cells, tissues in the body.
It's a recycling system that kicks in because there's no food coming in, so the body's like, okay, we still need some fuel, so let's go after old cells, dead cells, pathogens, scar tissue, stuff that isn't serving a purpose, isn't maybe doing a job anymore. It's not going to go after healthy tissue. It's going to go after the stuff that is ready to be recycled. So it's an amazing way to cleanse the whole system. And so it's going to go after those cells, and particularly old white blood cells, so you can kind of reboot your immune system through this process as well. But autophagy is an amazing skill set your body has that just taps into when you go without eating for a short while.
Yeah, when you stop providing your body intentionally, when you stop providing your body with that constant drip of food, of a source of sugar, it turns to other resources to survive, and in this case, it actually thrives. A lot of people think that, well, I'm going to be run down, I'm going to be feeling awful and weak, and we're talking about that tonight, what you can do to prevent that, the proper steps to take to get you to this thriving, the thriving benefits of fasting. But it's quite the opposite. Your body has so many amazing skill sets, like Mark was saying, and autophagy is one of them. It just starts to eat the stuff that you want to get rid of anyway. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of myths and misconceptions when it comes to fasting. So, commonly you'll hear people say, well, if you fast, you're going to lose muscle, and you don't exercise when you're fasting, and that's all false. And if you think about it, how does your body store energy? What does it store it as? It stores it as fat. So when you go without fuel, why would it ever tap into muscle when it has already stored energy in fat? So it's going to go after the fat. It's not going to go after your muscle. So you're going to preserve lean muscle. And there's a lot of science now supporting exercising while you're fasting. So it's a little more advanced strategy, but so there's a lot of myths and misconceptions, and this is a lot of why we have to do a lot of the coaching with people to kind of walk them through it.
So speaking of a lot of the coaching, I know some of you who will watch this are already aware of this. You're probably already in the group, but I've run a women's fasting group on Facebook, a private fasting group, for the last year and a half or so. And when we first started, I talked all the time about not exercising during your fasting. It really depends what your goals are with fasting as well. Some people are just really trying to let the innate intelligence of the body guide what's going to happen during that fast. So I'm not going to eat, I'm only putting water in, I don't want to push the body's decision making one way or the other. Exercise can obviously change things metabolically, hormonally in the body, so that could push the body in certain directions. So there's a camp that believes you shouldn't exercise when you're fasting if you're trying to do a true water fast. Others say, no, there's so many metabolic benefits to gain by exercising during fasting. So I just tell people,
but again, this is where the whole individuality comes in.
That's why we coach people through this.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling it when you're fasting, don't exercise. We can all give our body a break from time to time as well. Anyway, the next benefit is hormonal optimization. I love this. Hormonal optimization really, when you translate it, just really means that your cells, which is where the hormones actually dock and deliver their message, the cell membranes, the cells can finally hear the messages that those hormones, the chemical communicators of the body, it can finally hear the messages that those hormones have been trying to deliver. Many times hormonal imbalances and things that are are diagnosed like that, it's not necessarily a shortage of hormones, it's that there's so much muck, there's so much toxicity or inflammation in the body that the cells just can't hear what the message is that's trying to be delivered. So
I'm not listening. Talk to the head.
So fasting is a really good way to clear up some of that muck so the hormones can deliver their message effectively. Anything else on that?
Nope.
Stem cell production is definitely heightened, if not maximized, during fasting, especially once you get into day 4 or 5 and beyond in your extended fasting. Stem cells are just these magical little unicorn cells that can help repair and regenerate old injuries. Just the production of new cells that are then sent out where they're needed in the body. People spend tens of thousands of dollars on stem cell injections, and here you have a free tool to maximize your body's own production of stem cells.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. And we see people fasting in our protocols, and they are healing and repairing things that they've been suffering with for decades. And it's just their body doing its thing.
Yeah, one of the reasons why people look younger after they fast, and like you said, it's become a mainstream medical treatment.
I'm actually 95, but I've done a lot of fasting.
A lot of people are spending a lot of money in medical centers for stem cell treatments for youthful appearance and for longevity purposes. And there's a lot of clinical applications that you can use stem cells, but through fasting, you have a way to manufacture your own and increase your own stem cell production by thousands of % without spending a dime. And your body's going to use them to replace old tissue, and you can turn a stem cell can be turned into any type of cell in your body. So it's a way to replace the old with the new, literally. But that, again, that's one of those things that kind of kicks in a little bit later in fasting, which is some of the benefits of going a little bit longer. But it's a way to rejuvenate the body, and you don't have to pay for any of that.
Fasting can help reset the entire microbiome.
Well, so your microbiome.
Let's talk about the microbiome.
Yeah, microbiome, the whole ecosystem of beneficial bugs or microbes that we have living in us and on us. A lot of their population, a lot of the different strains that we have are dictated by the foods that we eat and the foods that we don't eat. And so if there is a challenge there, fasting can help reboot or restart a healthier microbiome just by the fact that the pathogens are going to die off because you're not feeding them, and the stronger, healthier strains are going to survive, and you can literally recreate a better microbiome by not eating. So very powerful.
This one's pretty cool because a lot of people don't even think that this is possible, but there's some pretty amazing research and evidence that shows fasting is a very powerful way to also reset your body's DNA. So it can turn off bad genes and turn on good genes for longevity, while turning off genes that are expressing diseased states. So who doesn't want that? That's absolutely amazing. If you buy into old school conventional healthcare dogma, you would think that you can never change the expression of your genes. And we've known for years, we've taught for years that that's absolutely wrong because of the environmental influence. We know we can change the expression of our genes.
It's called epigenetics, and it's how our environment and our lifestyle choices influence the genes that we express. And so this is, there's no debate on this anymore. And fasting is another way that taps into that innate intelligence that is going to reflect that in healthy genetic expression. So yeah, I mean, it's all about recreating that healthy environment, but it's epigenetics. And fasting for humans has been a huge part of our epigenetics since we've been on the planet. So we're just tapping back into it.
I was going to add something, but this will bring me to this point anyway. It also gets us into ketosis very quickly and very directly. So the ketogenic approach certainly has been very, very, very trendy the last few years. We don't recommend it because it's trendy or a fad. We have recommended it before it was mainstream for its unsurpassed benefits. But we also recommend tweaking it and modifying it per individual needs and requirements.
Or cycling it, or
Yep, one size does not fit all when it comes to fasting, when it comes to diets like ketogenic, Paleolithic, whatever the different diet protocols are you're trying. One approach does not fit all. One approach will not fit you for too long of a duration. So that's where we get into strategizing and diet variation and things like that, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Fasting is literally like the ultimate ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
It's just you're forced to shift to fat burning because there's nothing coming in. It's automatic, and it happens very quickly.
Yep. So that is the point that I wanted to make too. With fasting, this is the most direct route to many of the benefits that you can achieve through other lifestyle choices, particularly dietary choices. Fasting just gets you there more directly, more quickly. And Mark brought up burning fat versus burning sugar. Do you want to touch a tiny bit on that now? Because that's going to be important going into some of the next steps.
Well, I think our next video is going to be more on sugar, glucose, and insulin, and that certainly ties in to, because fasting is a great way to restore proper insulin levels, and that's humongously important. Huge, as Trump would say. As we were talking about this earlier, and I think sometimes people need to be reminded that the body really fluctuates between two states at all times. You're either in a fed state or you're in a fasted state. And we're supposed to experience both of those. And a lot of people are in a constant and continuous fed state. Besides sleeping and not eating when they're sleeping, the rest of the day, they are always fed. And so they're missing out on being in the fasted state, and we're supposed to experience that. And so the fasting is nothing to be stressed out about, or nothing to be leery of. You can step your way into it with shorter periods and moving into longer periods. That's what we coach people on. But it's a normal thing. It's a natural thing to experience. It's nothing to be stressed out about or afraid of.
What's the quote that you like?
Well, we're supposed to celebrate sometimes, and we're also supposed to fast sometimes. It goes both ways. So we can indulge and we can enjoy a lot of great foods, but if you really want your body to be healthy and at a maximum potential, you've got to incorporate fasting on some level, and it's not a one and done. It needs to be a regular part of your lifestyle.
Yep. So one of the most important benefits of fasting, Dr. Mark just touched on a couple of minutes ago, and that is getting insulin in check. More so than just saying it gets my blood sugar in check, getting insulin under control is of tremendous importance, not just if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, but if you are breathing and would like to stay that way and would like to stay disease-free. The more, like with each passing week, each passing month, there's more and more evidence pointing to insulin as being a key player in driving chronic illness. And when the people who are living an insulin-friendly lifestyle are not experiencing those same chronic illnesses anywhere near to the same degree, and are able, if you adopt an insulin-friendly lifestyle, you're able to reverse a lot of very, very serious illness. That's why we're going to devote next week's live, or one soon, to much more information on insulin. But that is one of the most important reasons to do some type of fasting. So I keep saying some type. Know that when we talk about longer fasts, we're typically talking about longer water fast. There's all sorts. There's bone broth fasting. There's fasting mimicking diet. There's lots of things. If you're a female and you're not in my fasting group, leave a comment below that you'd like to join, because we talk about all of this there. Mm-hmm. If you're a male, we'll just respond to you here.
You're not allowed.
I'll do another one for co-ed at some point.
All right.
Okay, so how do you prepare yourself to fast? Because we don't just launch people into these fasts. That would be, if you look at the standard American diet, and even a standard American diet that's been upgraded, where people they're eating healthier food, but they're still eating on a standard American timeline, you are addicted to sugar. You are a sugar burner. Even if you're not eating sweets, just the fact that you're eating frequently, the way we were all told to eat, right? Graze through the day, eat multiple small meals throughout the day. It'll help your metabolism, it'll help your energy, it'll keep your blood sugar stable. No, there are exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, that is the most dangerous nutrition advice we have been given as a population, is to eat all day long. Absolutely
fat,
not.
and don't eat fat, and don't eat salt.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it goes
Goodness,
on and
oh
on.
my
Yeah.
goodness, sorry. That makes us angry. There was some report that I heard on the news yesterday that came out that the top advice we could give Americans to avoid illness was to avoid same thing we've been hearing for 25 years, and look at where it's gotten us. Avoid saturated fats. Avoid sugar
Debunked.
was the right one. Avoid sugar and eat more greens and eat lots of fruit. Okay, sugar.
Debunked. Yeah.
Right, so it's just silly. Anyway,
Okay.
the steps to prepare someone to get into longer fasting, the steps to prepare are actually in and of themselves immensely beneficial. And that is, we normally coach like this, to start with, if you're a person who grazes all day or eats multiple small meals a day, start to rein that in. The first
Don't eat less often.
Yeah.
So start with
Moving
3.
towards
Yeah.
code over here. Moving towards your first goal being just eat 3 square meals a day.
Old school, breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Yeah.
No snacks, no late night grazing.
Or, I mean, right now, what the average, there's some pretty funny studies about this. The average American has a digestive event, snacking, drinking something that initiates digestion, 17 to 21 times a day. So if that's you right now, 3 times might be a little too much of a stretch. So just knock some of those snacks out. The handful of almonds.
Most people can get by.
That's
3
eating.
3 squares a day.
So that's our first
Yeah.
goal, is getting someone to
Better
3 square
yet-
meals a day.
Better yet, try to cut out breakfast and have lunch and dinner, or one of those meals, and just get it down to 2 meals a day. That's even better. You have a longer fasting period. This is what most people typically refer to as intermittent fasting, or
Don't jump ahead. Time restricted eating.
Yeah.
Before that, I am a big proponent of be careful what you're eating in those 3 meals or 2 meals or
Oh,
1
sure.
meal. Be careful what you're eating, because that's what I'm seeing in social media, is a lot of crazy talk about just eat everything. You want to fill up, but you want to fuel up the times that you eat. It's not okay just to fill up on whatever's available. Fuel your body. So a more traditional ketogenic approach is high fat, moderate protein, low carb. That's fine. That's certainly fine, at least to start with. We modify it per individual based on testing that we do, and you can test yourself. Go to myketomojo.com, get your own test unit, do it at home. We'll walk you through that. But that's how you start to do this intelligently, based on your own body's response to the changes that you're making. So like Mark said, you move to 3 meals a day. First, no snacking. Right away, you're calming things down. Inflammation is decreasing, insulin's getting under control. Even just sticking with that is beneficial. But then we push the body a little bit further. We stretch that fasting time and move to a window of eating where you might eat breakfast and lunch. That might be your window, and then it's closed for the rest of the day. Most people are going to eat lunch and dinner. It
and
fits
that
in
can
with their
even be,
social
you can
schedule
start
a little
off
bit better.
every other day with that, or a few times a week. It doesn't have to go from 0 to 100 in your first month.
Yep, and make
But-
sure you're fueling with lots of healthy, clean fats when you're doing that as well. But it's that window of time that the more metabolically fit, metabolically flexible you get, the more fat adapted you get, which means your body gets used to not running on sugar all the time. It runs more on the fat that we have in storage, and unless you're under 4%, 3% body fat, we've got fat in storage to
That's
do
right.
this. So you can and then you can work to a smaller window, and eventually, like Mark said, some days you might even just have 1 meal a day. But this is what we work through with individuals one-on-one, and seeing how fat adapted are you? Is your body ready to move into an extended fast? And you know what?
Once you are, it's so much easier, because your body is already able and ready to just tap into fat for fuel. So if you're not eating, some people struggle on a fast because they've been a sugar burner, and so those first couple days they're crashing because their body's like, whoa, we have nothing coming in, and we've exhausted our sugar supplies, and they haven't primed that pump of burning fat. So if you've already been doing that for a little while with some of these strategies, then if you go to a longer fast, it's just much more smooth sailing, because you're almost right into ketosis in a couple days, and you don't experience the tough times that some people can have. And that's why some people, they get down on fasting, but it's not, they haven't really trained their body to do that yet. You can push through it. It's not that bad, because usually by day 3, day 4, man, second win, and you're off to the races. Yeah. But it's faster and easier if you've been kind of preparing your body.
Yeah, and in addition to being physically easier, it's also so much easier mentally and emotionally to get through that fast when you're kind of used to eating, not having your first meal till the afternoon anyway. So just that intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, even if you did just that and you were careful of what you were eating during those times, so you're fueling up while you're filling up, not just eating small portions, that's not going to get you too far either. That's going to throw off your hormones in a completely different direction. So you want to fill up and fuel up when you do eat. If you just did that and didn't even move into extended or block fasting, that's still amazing. There's still so many benefits from that.
I think, obviously we're going to hit this topic again, because there's so much more to teach on this, and hopefully if you've got some questions on this, or you're, something we said struck a chord, leave a comment so we can.
I'm not done yet though. There's a couple more things, because I want to address what people bring up to me quite a bit, and that's the naysayers, or the things that they've heard why they shouldn't be doing intermittent fasting or block or extended fasting. And this is one you've heard us talk about it before. I always say this is the key. This is the magic key that makes it all work properly. And that, some of the things you might hear, the myths, they have some partial truth if you're not doing it properly. And that's that if you have a thyroid condition, you should not be fasting. If you're a female, you should not be fasting. If you're menopausal, you should not be fasting. Usually it has to do with hormones that you should not be fasting. There are partial truths. There's things that you can do to properly prepare, like we've already talked about, getting your body fat adapted first. But the key to making this all work is diet variation. That is definitely a subject in and of itself. But that is where we really see one size does not fit all. Some people can do intermittent fasting for several days a week. They need to throw in a feast day. The body needs some days where you increase the healthy carbs. You might increase healthy protein, clean protein for several days. And then you might go a day without anything at all, get back into intermittent fasting. We have different schedules that we have people try. Some people can go several days on high healthy carbs. Some people need to. Certain females at certain points in their cycle need a few days of high healthy carbs to keep that hormonal optimization in check. So a lot of those myths out there, like I said, they have a shred of truth to them, but it's because someone is not putting this whole thing together for them the right way, or they're leaving out some pieces, like diet variation, like the feasting days.
You can't just give a blanket statement that, this category of people can't fast. That's just not true. Fasting is one of the oldest healing strategies on the planet. So,
yep. So that's the big thing I want to address, because those are the questions I get all the time. Well, I was told I can't fast. I was told my eyebrows are falling out because I'm fasting, or I'm losing muscle because I'm fasting. Fasting in and of itself doesn't inherently create problems like that. The bigger picture of it is, when you are eating, what are you eating? How stressed are you? How are you moving your body? How's your sleep? Are you taking medications, right? There's so many other facets to it, and that's the part that takes, for some people, might take a little bit of coaching and walking through, and that's what we're here for. So if you do have some follow-up questions about this, definitely leave them in the comments, because we'll do a follow-up video on this. Know that we are going to come back and talk very specifically about insulin. I guarantee you are not hearing this from your family doctor. Hopefully you will someday. Insulin is very misunderstood, and that makes it very dangerous. So we want to shed some light on that. But if you have specific questions about starting fasting, or if you've run into some problems with fasting, leave it in the comments, and we'll make sure that we incorporate that in a future video, some solutions for those problems. Again, as always, share with people who need to hear this information, and let us know how we can help. We'll see you next week.